You're listening to the Begin Within Health Show with Nate Slager. For more, go to beginwithin.fit/podcast, or to enroll right now in our flagship coaching program, go to beginwithin.fit/coaching. I've got a good one for you today. My guest today is Sherry Shaban. She's from Montreal. She is a YouTuber, a podcaster, a fitness and life coach, a certified strength and conditioning specialist, a certified athletic therapist, and we could go on and on and on. She has dedicated her life to helping thousands of people transform their athletic identity to become who they are meant to be, and her passion for helping others with their health and wellness came from her own trials and tribulations at a very young age due to an accident. I'm going to let her tell that story, but what I want you to listen for as we talk with Sherry Shaban today is the transformation that took place inside of her, which led to her recovery, her pursuit of her own fitness, and then helping others to improve their health and wellness. The change within. Here we are on the Begin Within Health Show, right? And this is a great story, and she has such a great message. In particular, I want you to listen for when we start talking about the word victim. Okay? Listen for that, and I'll check with you after the interview. Please enjoy my interview with Sherry Shaban.
Well, growing up, I was super involved in sports. I was the tomboy. I would compete against the boys in elementary school. I had to do the most push-ups and all that. And so it just continued into high school, and I got into varsity sports. I was always MVP. And then one day, when I was 16 years old, I was going downtown with my roommate. I was actually living in Lugano, Switzerland at the time for boarding school. I was hit by a car. We were there to buy Pearl Jam tickets, actually, and I didn't see the car coming. And all of a sudden, I just woke up and I was in the hospital. And what followed after that, I went back to basketball practice, and I was training. And then all of a sudden, I started to feel intense pain going down my leg. And eventually it was progressing so quickly. And within a matter of a couple of weeks, I wasn't able to shower on my own. I wasn't able to walk. And I ended up having an emergency back surgery. I'd herniated several discs in my back. And that was also when I was told, Sherry, you're never allowed to play sports again. And if ever you were to become pregnant one day, this could pose a lot of issues on the back. And so I followed the doctor's advice and I stopped all sports. This was one bitter pill to swallow, Nate. And I listened for years and found myself just spiraling down this rabbit hole, spending time with people who were not athletes and actually engaging in a lot of habits that my parents told me never to do. And so in my early 20s, I kind of just woke up one day and I'm like, okay, who is this person? Like, I was just so grossed out with myself. I'm like, I don't even believe that this is me. I never even saw myself this way. And even though at that point I was in constant chronic pain, I was relying on pain medications to get through the day. That was the first time I actually signed up at my local gym. And it first started off just me walking in. I had no idea what I was doing. I was actually doing a master's degree in chemistry of all things at that time. But I just started copying people. I'm like, oh, that looks good. I just started imitating people. And I stuck to it very consistently for months until I realized my back pain is gone. I was able to get off my pain medication. I bought myself a little treadmill off of Craigslist. And I started running 5 minutes at a time until I built up to 1 hour outside. And then that was the whole trajectory of my life at that moment. I dropped out of my master's degree. I went back to school. I studied exercise science. I became a certified athletic therapist. I became an osteopath. I learned everything there was about the human body. I took every nutrition course. And then that really became my passion. And so from there, I actually did end up having a second back surgery when I opened my gym. And this was in 2012 when I opened my CrossFit gym. And so again, I had to rebuild myself and my strength. And today I now have such in tuneness with my body in terms of where my limitations are, but also noticing that what I'm limited in is so far less than what I'm actually able to do.
Mm. Well, awesome. That is like just in a nutshell, I'm sure, like what is behind all of that. I'd love to dig in as I was reading about you. I don't, that sounds a little creepy, right? But I was reading about you
It's a little bit.
online. One of the phrases that stuck out to me was you're learning about getting over kind of being a victim, I think was the word that jumped out at me, a victim of your circumstances. And it, as I was thinking about the circumstances that were handed to you that day with, that car accident, I feel like that's maybe most people would say, well, that's a normal response, right? That's what it should be. How was it for you, maybe identifying that and then working to overcome it? I'd love to kind of look inside your head back there and tell me about like what that process was like.
Yeah, for a long time, and especially when I just opened my gym, I didn't really want to tell people I was a coach or I was a trainer or that I was even a gym owner. It was actually very embarrassing. I just had a second back surgery. And in 2012, that back surgery was even more severe than the first one. I was actually millimeters away from paralysis. And for a long time, I was just angry. If this hadn't happened, then I would have been whatever. If I didn't have an issue in my back, then I could have competed in the sport. If this, and it was this constant if then, which is very victim mindset, right? And so as I was watching actually people in my gym coming in, and these were, new moms, and these were people who were struggling with their health for years, and I just watched them transform in front of my own eyes, that actually is what re-inspired me. And it was that moment where I decided I get to be whoever I am. And looking back, it was so clear that this hadn't happened to me. It actually happened for me because as a coach, people want to resonate with you, right? If you are going to be inspiring, it's because you've gone through the pain and you've gone through the struggle and you've gone through the obstacle and you've overcome it, not just once, but many times over and over again, because it doesn't just happen once in your life. And so the moment I embraced that story and I accepted where I was, I accepted that I wouldn't be able to deadlift the bus. I accepted that I wouldn't be able to back squat more than my body weight. Then that really changed for me. So there's a massive level of acceptance. And then also, as we were talking about earlier, just noticing how much more opportunity there is than actual limitations. And so we get to decide if we want to be a victim, because if we're a constant victim to a person or to something that happened to us, we just give up our power. There's no way I can change my life if I always think that things happen to me. That means I have no control over my life. I have no control over the outcome. But things happen to everyone. And we all have an obstacle. For some of us, it is struggling with weight. For others, it is struggling with limiting beliefs. And for other people, it could be a disease or a condition or an injury, like it was for me. And so we all have this. And when we start to learn other people's stories, it's impossible not to fall in love with other people, first of all, once you know their story. But the other thing you realize is that we all have something, and it's our own obstacle, and it's created in our own mind. And by looking at it and seeing what is the gift in it, we're like really squeezing the juice out of the lemon. Like, what is this really happening for? What is the purpose behind it? That starts to change everything. And then you have a beautiful story that you can share and use to inspire others too.
Nice. Well, yeah, that victim mindset or that approach of things happening to me and not for me, or focusing on the limits and not the opportunities, I think is more common than we realize. And I think until we start naming it, it's hard for any of us to kind of see that in ourselves. So one thing that I've noticed though, and I want to get your thoughts on this, I'll go through times even with that knowledge and doing I mean, an okay job of taking care of my mental health and physical health, right? Still things happen and I'll kind of notice the victim dial getting turned up a little bit. Does that happen to you too, having gone through this? What's the method or what advice would you give? I mean, just imagine you're talking to me and you're like, "Nate, here's what you gotta do when you notice that happening." I'm curious
Right.
to get your advice.
Right. So first and foremost, we don't fight it because it's going to happen. The mind is always going to go to the negative all the time. Like when something first happens, like, you parked your car and then you came outside and noticed that someone took, the bumper off. You're not going to be like, oh, that's so great. That happened for me. Right. You can be like, God, you're upset. Now, the difference is you can move past that quicker, right? You build the muscle essentially to be able to move past that quicker. And it's not now your whole week or your whole month where you're consumed by what happened. And so that takes some practice. But the mind is wired to first look for the negative because the mind is always wired for protection. And how can I come out of that? But just knowing that, creating that massive awareness that this does happen first is how we can actually move past that. Then it's okay. It's normal that I'm going to be upset that someone just took off my bumper. However, okay, what's great about this? There's something that's great about this. And what is the opportunity? Maybe I'm supposed to meet someone today. Maybe I was not supposed to get in my car for whatever reason because I could have had an accident, right? And so it's just that practice of really trying as much as you can to always see that perspective. And at first it's hard because when you don't have the practice or awareness, it is definitely a struggle. So Nate, my advice to you then is to first allow yourself to get the emotions out. Maybe even time yourself. Be like, okay, I'm going to give myself 3 minutes. I can do that. And then once I'm done, I'm going to now look at why this is great and why this was the greatest gift for me today.
Nice. Nice. I like it. Okay, I'm jotting down some notes. Good. I appreciate that. And I think so for me, just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, is realizing that maybe having confidence that there's going to be good in whatever path I might be going down. And maybe something did happen that now I'm going down a path, or there's an aspect of my life now that I honestly wish wasn't there. I wish I still had my bumper. But knowing that on every path I'm going to go down, there's going to be good things. There's going to be something positive, something to be grateful for, something to smile about, kind of changes that for me. Does that kind of resonate for you too?
Yeah, absolutely. And even just looking back at history, I'm 43, by the way. So I look back at my life, all the things that I wanted to happen that didn't happen. When I look back at them now, even though I was really upset, right? During the pandemic, I lost my gym. This was just a reality. This is what happened. And I ended up going online. So yes, during that moment, I was like, man, like things are out of my control. Like I have no control over what's going on. I look back at that moment now. I'm like, thank goodness that had to have happened because I wouldn't have been able to be where I am now if that hadn't happened. I was always dreaming about taking my business online and podcasting and being able to reach more people than just those, from inside the 4 walls of my gym. And so just looking back at life, like how do we create faith? Because that's really hard. Like how can I create faith in uncertainty? Which, by the way, is confidence is not just that I'm feeling good about myself. Confidence is that I feel good at myself in the face of uncertainty, right? And so if I'm able to look back at those moments in my life and then just see how things happen for me, it becomes easier to harness faith in the uncertainty.
Nice. Nice. I like that. You mentioned some of the things that you're doing now. Could you tell me a little bit about just the ways that you're helping people and maybe some of the core elements of the things that you're teaching, the way that you're helping your clients and others?
Yeah. The main thing that I do is I help women overcome out of control and self-sabotaging eating behaviors. So this helps them get into a place where there's no longer any unwanted eating behaviors and they're able to release weight in that way. They're able to transform their body. And I do it in an anti-diet approach. And so when I first did transition online, it started off with little programs and little challenges. And then eventually it ended up becoming this lifelong mission of mine that I had always wanted to create. I've been in the gym space for so long. I've been in the fitness space now for about 25 years. And I've always noticed that people end up getting short-term results, certain people, when there is an unwanted eating behavior involved. And so that's really sort of my main work. And then I do have a app that I just created and it launches in January, Nate. You're one of the first people to know. It's called the HitDex app. And then I do have obviously some other free offers. I have YouTube and the podcast and workouts for people to access as well.
Oh, that is awesome. Awesome. I'm curious about the app. Can you tell me more about it? Just since I'm one of the first to know about it.
Since you got to know everything about it then. Are you familiar with a deck of cards workout?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So it's based on that.
Okay.
And I create the deck. So you can create your own deck based on the exercise that you want to choose that day, or you can follow a series of decks that are already created and they use different equipment. It's really at home type training. So you're using things like dumbbells and kettlebells or even completely body weight. And I've got different levels depending on also where you're starting from. And so that is really fun. I love that workout because it passes by so quickly. It challenges the mind and the body in different ways. And it's a fun way to train. And then there's another part of that app that offers something called the randomizer, where you choose what you want to work on. So you have the body parts that you want to work on. You can be very specific around the modalities. You can choose your equipment, and then the app will generate a workout for you that you can follow. If you don't like it, you can reshuffle, and then you'll get a new workout.
Nice. I like it. I'm sure that it helps with just the monotony that sometimes people complain about on board. And I know that you have CrossFit in your background. So, and I feel like as far as the fitness industry goes, one of the things that CrossFit has done so beautifully for us is kind of taught us that all the things we learned about periodization aren't really all that important. Just to put it
Right.
like simply and bluntly.
Possibly very right.
Yeah,
Right.
very like challenge your body, use your muscles, move. Like that's what is going to keep you healthy and get
Yeah.
you where you want to go. So we spend a lot of time learning about things that sometimes we don't end up using a lot or, nice to know, but let's just get people moving,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah. And most of us misunderstand what CrossFit is anyway. I feel that we have this stigma that you have to be in wicked shape in order to do CrossFit and you have to be super jacked and be able to lift super heavy weights. But really, CrossFit is just cross fitness. And what attracted to me right away was just the diversity. Like you're good at all the different things and you're able to challenge yourself in a different way. And it immediately took away boredom. And I was so incredibly humbled by my first workout, which was Fran. I thought it was a joke because I was used to like a 2 hour, gym routine where I'm doing cardio for an hour and then weights for an hour. I'm like, what do you mean I'm supposed to finish the thing in 7 minutes? And after the first round, which was 21 reps of thrusters and pull-ups, I was like, oh my gosh, I have found my love. This is it. This is it right here.
Thrusters and pull-ups is my love.
That's I can do this in like 7 minutes. Oh my gosh, I'm sold. So
Yeah. Oh man, a brutal 7 minutes. Oh, cool. What would you recommend as the best? Let's just say someone's listening. They found this podcast just from searching on Spotify or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen to these two talk about fitness and health." And they got to this point, but they haven't really started doing anything yet to improve their health or fitness. What would you recommend as the best first step?
I'll always say, and then maybe write this down somewhere as a reminder to follow the rule of consistency first before intensity. And what that means is before deep diving into something and going from 0 to 100, just start training your mind to get familiar with the habit. And so that could even be a 5 minute walk every day. And then slowly start to build that up to an hour. Most of us, and especially with New Year's, let's say resolutions, or we're hitting the big 5-0, we have these major goals to suddenly transform our lives overnight. We change everything around how we eat, how we train, how we move. We've hired nutritionists, we've hired the trainers, and then we give up and we quit because it's too much. And so adaptation is the most important thing. And it's always harder to go from the couch to a 5 minute walk than it is to go from a 5 minute walk to an hour walk. And so start with that consistency. Once you feel that it's sustainable and you enjoy it, that's the most important thing too, is you have to enjoy what you're doing. Once you feel like you've mastered that, then start adding on the intensity and then slowly start to scale, because that also gives you flexibility. And I'll say in the last couple of years, just the last 2 years of my life, I have busted my knees twice. I tore a calf muscle. I was sick with COVID 3 times. I had pneumonia and I burnt out at the beginning of this year. But because of consistency, I was able to reduce the load and then build back up. So you never have to stop. If you're able to master consistency, you're never going to stop. You're going to know that you're allowed to slow down and you're allowed to speed up when the time is right. And our health and fitness journey is never a straight line. It is ebbs and flows, and it is this squiggly line, and you've got great days and you've got maybe more challenging days because your 100% is not the same every day. And so focus on consistency always.
Love it. Oh, that's great. What's the best way for someone to get in touch with you or just benefit from the work that you're putting out into the world?
Well, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is at Sherry Shaban Fitness. And then if you are looking to overcome any unwanted behavior, I also have a free workbook for you at makepeacewithfood.com. If you're wanting to learn a little bit more about how you can get control over your eating behaviors, that's a really great resource to start with.
Oh, cool. Makepeacewithfood.com. I like that. Nice. Well done. Sherry Shaban, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nate. It's fun.
All right, such a cool interview. I want to thank Sherry so much for being here on the show. And the link that she mentioned is waiting for you in the show notes. MakePeaceWithFood.com, where you can download your copy of her book, Make Peace with Food, with Sherry Shaban, MakePeacewithFood.com, MakePeaceWithFood.com. Go check it out and connect with her and continue to follow her amazing work. I asked you at the outset to listen for that word victim. That was the key thing that I wanted you to clue in on. And I think that one is so important because if we're not careful, we all can become victims, right? There are so many things that go on in life that aren't what we would expect. They're not the circumstances that we would have chosen. And if we're not careful, we can just become victims of those circumstances, just like you heard Sherry talk about in the interview. And what's so dangerous about that, if we're not careful, if we don't change our mindset about those circumstances, it will keep us paralyzed, even though we might have the capability to move forward. And of course, I'm talking about health. I'm talking about fitness. I'm talking about working out. I'm talking about eating our veggies, doing all the things that we know that we need to do. But if we feel like we are victims, if we accept that identity, that there's nothing I can do about these negative circumstances, they're going to hurt me, and that's just the way it is, then we are paralyzed. There's really nothing we can do from that point until we change our mindset and choose a more empowered mindset. And it all starts with awareness. We talked about that in the interview. That is so, so important. So here's my action step for you. I'm not going to keep you here for the rest of the day. I want you to move on. I want you to get busy. I want you to pursue the things that you know are going to lead to you having the healthiest life that you possibly can today. But the action step that I want you to take from this beautiful discussion that we had is, first of all, to start to become aware of the times in life when negative circumstances are affecting your outlook. And I think that's going to be easy for all of us because we have lots of circumstances, right? Again, that we didn't ask for, that we wouldn't have chosen if we had the choice to begin with. To become aware of those times, become aware of the negative feelings that come up for us as we confront those circumstances or as they come upon us, to become aware of those. And like Sherry said, if we need to take some time to sit with them, to express them to someone, do so for a limited amount of time. And then our goal, and here's the step. Once we become aware of the negative circumstances, the negative emotions, is to try to see, work hard to see the positive side of those circumstances. And here's a question that you might ask yourself. What's good about this? What's good about this problem? What's good about this set of circumstances? Or what might be good about this set of circumstances? What might be good about this problem? And no matter what it is, you can be sure that with a growth mindset, there's always going to be some positive things that come from any negative circumstances. We're going to get stronger. We're going to get better. We're going to get wiser in a lot of cases. We're going to develop stronger bonds with others. We're going to be better prepared for the future. Things like that come from even some of the worst circumstances. So rather than allowing that victim mindset to just settle in and to become us, we have the opportunity with just one powerful question, like what might be good about this circumstance? We have the opportunity with one question to have energy, have strength, have power, and be able to move forward in pursuing a healthier life, a healthier version of ourselves, the healthiest one possible. I want to thank you so much for being here with me on the Begin Within Health Show. If you would be so kind to follow the show, to rate and review the show, to share the show with someone that you think would benefit from it, someone that you love to help, to support, I would be forever grateful. It helps us to keep the show in the top 10% of all podcasts on the planet. When you listen, when you follow, when you rate and review the show, when you share it with others. So thank you so much for doing that. If you've already done it, and I thank you in advance for those who will do it right now. Thanks so much. I'll talk with you again soon on the Begin Within Health Show.